Very nice. Now it's rap time. Okay. S- Okay, Miss Shimona. So, should I address you as Shimona Key or just Shimona or?
Shimona is fine.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Simply Shimona.
Simply Shimona.
Shimona, I know simply.
Wow, you really lift up your name.
The name has been more than a decade coming. I mean, this
Oh.
Simply Shimona thing.
Oh, so it's a made-up name.
Huh? No. I mean,
Oh.
the tag Simply
Oh,
Shimona.
okay. Wait, just a few seconds at the camera. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News at Hyatt. I'm Robin Steinberg, and welcome to my show again. Well, it's simply Shimona today, and we have a great guest artist, and she's right here. She's also known as Shimona Key, in fact, and she has been performing and releasing her EPs for the last couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. And right now, Shimona has released her new album, Simply Shimona. And you can get this online in all leading bookstores or record stores. You can even look up to her Facebook and obtain a copy. Today we're going to get to know a little bit more about her pursuit and a conversation with her. Mhm. Hi Shimona.
Hi.
Good to see you. And most people have wondered, who is the face behind Simply Shimona. And of course, although you are on YouTube, people are still intrigued by your music. It's you compose them, in fact. First question of the day, and that is, how did you begin, your career as a songwriter, and singer? Was it by accident or was it because of family values?
Well, I actually started really long ago. I mean, I grew up loving music and singing as a pastime. And when I was finishing up my poly studies, polytechnic, I got involved with a lot of singing road shows and things like that. And all this and the entire time I just did it as a hobby. I grew up a very shy person, so I didn't really believe that I could make singing a career. Especially, most people tell you otherwise. They'll say do something more stable and things like that.
Okay.
But when I was in my early 20s, I took part in this contest, which is a national TV show called The Big Break. And,
Is that in Singapore?
yeah, it was in Singapore.
Oh, The Big Break.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was before Singapore Idol.
Oh, before Singapore Idol.
Yeah,
Wow.
but it was by this TV station called TV Works, which
Okay.
is no longer anywhere now. So I think not many people remember it. But that was it was my big break in a sense that it gave me the confidence to actually do this for a living. Because like I said, I was very shy and I wasn't very confident of myself. I always had these ideas that I'm not good enough, to make it as a professional singer. And then I won the contest, and it was quite a shock to me. I never thought I would win it, so it made me rethink everything and go, okay, maybe I could do this.
Huh.
Yeah, and but the entire time I had been writing songs already since my late teens, just for fun. I used to write really silly songs when I was a teenager. I don't even remember what they're about. Really silly stuff like, oh, this guy passing by the street and he's funny and he looks cute, but things like that. Really silly things. But
Interesting.
but because I used to also love writing poetry, and then I started experimenting when I started to play the guitar, putting music and poetry together, which obviously becomes a song.
Huh.
So
Wow.
yeah, so songwriting was kind of like a very natural progression for me.
Now, during your days at the Polytechnic, which Polytechnic were you?
Nanyang Poly.
Oh, Nanyang Poly. Was that the one over at Yishun or something, or Yio Chu Kang, I heard?
It's currently at Yio Chu Kang MRT station, Ang Mo Kio area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were there in those days?
I actually, when I first joined, it was all the separate campuses.
Oh, wow.
And
That long, huh?
Yeah, and then after my first year, we moved to the new campus.
Oh, and so was your Polytechnic years influence your music career?
Definitely. It's quite ironic actually, because when I was studying, I studied business, but I really had no interest. I was more interested in music.
Huh.
And at the time in my first year, it's quite strange because during my first year in poly, there's a big transition between secondary school and polytechnic, and I didn't really cope very well, and so I ended up playing truant and going outside of class and learning guitar from
Oh, wow.
from the guys. So that kind of helped me pick up the guitar a bit more, playing the guitar, playing and singing. And from there I started getting into band stuff and taking part in the school contests and things like that. So
So you managed to get good grades even though
actually no, I wasn't a
You
very
played.
good student when I was in polytechnic.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, I'm very based on interest, so I had very little interest in that sense. I just
But-
scraped through.
But why business? Was it
It's one
was it
of
a
those-
choice by
no,
the parents
well,
or
yes and no. It was kind of like it's a very Singaporean thing,
Singaporean
like
thing?
seriously,
Wow.
yeah. Because I knew I loved music and media and all this, but I was too shy. Like literally, I actually wanted to study Ngee-Ann. I wanted to take the course in Ngee-Ann Poly for film media studies, and then I found out you have to do an interview. And back then I was so shy that I said, oh no, forget it. If there's an interview, I'm not going.
Okay.
So my dad said, why don't you take business, because it's broad, it's practical. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I think that was quite a typical Singaporean thing to do, like just do something because you have to get the paper cert. Which it's been a very interesting journey since then until now, because looking back, I came from a point of the very blasé, not really caring and not really knowing attitude, which a lot of I think a lot of Singaporean children grow up with. They do things because they're told to do things. But then along the way, my interests prevailed. My passions and my love for music and the things that I want to do. And I actually went back. After polytechnic, I took a second tertiary education. I went to college and studied psychology and education, which was an interest, as well as music minor.
Okay.
So, but the second time round, when I went to college, I was definitely a different kind of student. I was a straight A student because I wanted to learn. So that was a very big difference to me. And yeah, I guess it changes you.
Were there any artists that you listened to on radio or probably maybe MTV that influenced your writings and your perception of music?
I have a very eclectic influence in terms of songwriting and singing. I kind of sometimes, I think that when it comes to being a vocalist and a songwriter, there are overlapping points, but there are also points that are not the same. For example, as a vocalist, sometimes I exercise certain ways of singing, genres, styles that I don't actually use when I write my songs. It's a conscious choice what kind of songs I write. When I started writing, it was not very conscious. It was just like I just wrote whatever came. I guess then being much younger and much more naive and dealing with a lot of emotions, it was a very good outlet. So much of the stuff I wrote was about love and breakups and figuring out where I want to go in life, dreams and things like that. And then somewhere along the way, the process changed, and I guess maybe when after the teenage years and hormones die down and your rationality kicks in, the process changes because you're not so much driven just by spur of the moment, but you're also driven by a very thought-filled process. Like actually a lot of the songs on my album, the one I just released, are more reflective songs, and if you look carefully at them, not many of them are actually about romantic love. Most of them are about life, because over the years I started reflecting and thinking, oh, what other things are there to write about besides love? Because sometimes I think songwriters harp a bit too much on love. I mean,
really?
Yeah, I think it's a very common thing. If you listen to
So you're more rational than you used to be now.
no, well, that's questionable, but maybe I would say I wouldn't make some of the same mistakes anymore.
But you did say that now
Yeah.
your songs are more
Yeah.
soul and and
They still come from a very experiential, emotional standpoint, but I take longer to actually produce a song, as in like generate a song. Like it's a reflective, philosophical process sometimes. For example, this one song I wrote called Sweet Company. It's about understanding who you are and learning to love yourself for all your flaws and sit alone and be comfortable with that. Because sometimes sitting alone is the most difficult thing to do. And even though I wrote that maybe last year or the year before, I forgot, it's about my whole journey as a person since the time when I was a teenager, an awkward teenager, going to school, feeling out of place, and not being comfortable to sit in the cafeteria eating by myself.
Huh.
And now I would be totally okay with that, you see? So it's
Because you're more rational today.
because, well, no, I'm just more comfortable with myself, and I've looked at that whole process and made it into a song. Something
Okay.
that I've looked at my life journey, and I think, you know, this can be summarized in a way. And
But then, about your songs and your music, were they influenced by other artists that you listen to on radio and so forth?
Definitely, definitely. When I
Right.
first started writing, I was very much influenced by Mariah Carey, and Alanis Morissette, Sheryl Crow, the singer-songwriters of my growing up time, you know.
Oh yes.
Sarah McLachlan, Jewel, and
And what do you think about Lady Gaga? Are they? Do you
I
like it?
respect her as an artist and a businesswoman. I think that she has made a very niche, I don't know, a niche name for herself. She was very clever in the way she did it, and I gathered a lot of respect for her when I read a bit more of her, read into her story of how she actually came to this height, you know, this success. It is not an easy thing to succeed as an artist anywhere in the world, and the fact that she's phenomenally successful, I think a lot of people discount her because, you know, at times she's like Tati and all this kind of stuff. And personally, I'm not that into her music. I do her covers and all that, but it's not my cup of tea. But on the other hand, it has reached a lot of people. She has made a name for herself in a way that not many people could have done. She does everything she can for her craft, and I think as an artist, I respect that a lot because it takes a lot of commitment. When I first started out, for example, one music producer actually told me back then, because I was trying my best to make a demo and get it out there and try and sign a record deal, and he said, "You're not ready. You're not committed to this." And I said, "Yes, I am." And turned out he was right, because mentally I actually wasn't, which is why I wasn't able to finish anything back then. But after, you know, life's journey and all this kind of stuff, and coming back into it now, the second time round, I believe I'm a bit more mature in the process and ready to do anything, or not really anything like Lady Gaga kind of anything, but ready to really immerse myself and make, you know, sacrifices for my craft and to get it out there, you know.
Okay. And now about your music, you know, that you have transpired now. There are 14 tracks in this CD, in this album itself. And was there any 3 songs that gives you, you know, the most emotional expression?
Emotional expression. Good thing you didn't ask me favorite. I really hate that question. It's like, how can you favorite your children? I would say there's one song that would rise to the top of the list immediately, which would be A Promise is a Promise.
Oh.
It's actually one of the latter tracks, and many people they miss it because a lot of people I know, they only listen to the first few tracks. But A Promise is a Promise was a combination of factors and my life decisions, crossroads coming together, and me reflecting on it, and then looking forward and writing this song in awareness of past, present, and future. And basically that was the time when I was living in Thailand, in Bangkok, and I decided to come back to Singapore. And it was actually a very difficult decision, although I really felt strongly I should come back to Singapore and be with my parents and work on music and, you know, face the problems I used to have here. But, you know, it filled me with a lot of trepidation and fear and, you know, all this old baggage you have to deal with. And but then at the same time, to me as a Christian, I believe that, you know, God has brought me this far, and I look forward and I go, okay, you know, I just gotta keep on trusting that He's gonna bring me further right now. And so that song in itself is really right there at the crossroads. And when I was actually in the process of recording the album, it was quite difficult because there were many points when I really almost felt like giving up because I had to do it independently. So, and I didn't have much help in terms of, well, no money came in, and then you know, all kinds of things that I didn't think would happened, like scheduling and difficulties with figuring out technical things, and halfway through I felt so bogged down. And then it's funny because when I was working on this song, then I was like, you know, wait, this song is actually telling me not to give up. So it kept recurring, and the whole entire process when I finished the album felt like the sealing the deal. Like, okay, yes, this song is actually something that was God-given, and I really got to cling to it. So that would be one of the top few in terms of an emotional connection, I guess. Then there's the song that I wrote for my brother, which is called Beyond, and that one is at the end of the CD, and I put it there because it's very personal, and I kind of feel like I want the listener to go on a journey with me, and when they get to know me, then to listen to that one vulnerable track, because it really is a very personal track.
So that's the soul of your brother, I take it. Beyond, is that the song that you composed that tells the story about the very soul and the essence of his experience?
No, not really. Beyond is a song about letting go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually because my brother passed away in an accident, and when
Yes.
that kind of thing happens to you and your family, it comes as a shock.
And he happens to be a musician too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Was he the one that inspired you, or you inspired him to be one?
I don't know. We were two very independent siblings. We were close, but
Okay.
we didn't interact in that way that we, you know, push each other, like, because I was overseas. But when after he passed away, and I heard a lot of people praising his musical accomplishments, and I saw how his music had touched people, it made me rethink whether I should give up, because at that point when he passed away, I had still not come back to music. Because I kind of, in about 2004, I left Singapore and decided I'm not going to pursue a pop music career because it's so difficult. It really is so difficult. And instead, I studied psychology and education, and I did a music minor because I love music, and that was in classical music. But then when my brother passed away, I realized that he had been very true to himself, and his music, in touching so many people, spoke a lot for him as a person, and it made me reflect on what am I doing with my music, because I still had my songs, and I had actually stopped writing for a while because it was just kind of an emotional thing. I shut down with writing songs for a few years, but after he passed, I kind of started writing again, and it was like a door opened. It felt like a connection with him. So I didn't want to break that, you know.
So did he done any audio recordings or sorts like that?
Audio recordings? No.
Yeah, did your brother left any recordings?
Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Plenty. Actually, you can, if you just go to rubenkey.com, there should be some, you can find some recordings.
But there was no YouTube
He,
performance?
Not performance. He did record some stuff he did in the bedroom, his bedroom.
Oh, okay.
It is on YouTube. Most of the stuff he did, what he did musically was very different from what I do.
Okay.
He did arrangements and scoring for soundtracks and mostly games.
Oh, wow.
So it was
a very talented guy.
Yeah. So it was kind of different. So I think he's kind of well known in certain gaming circles, which I wouldn't have a clue about because I'm not very gamer. Yeah. So yeah, there are still people who post up some of his YouTube songs on YouTube and score out some of his rearrangements and covers.
Oh, wow. And so that is Beyond.
Yeah, Beyond is my delayed reaction 2 years after he passed, which was me actually writing a song about letting him go. Because as a songwriter, it was very strange. Like when he actually passed, because it was an accident, it was very sudden, and I couldn't write it was quite strange because I thought I would be able to use that as an outlet, creatively. But I didn't write anything, and instead, after 2 years, then one day I was at the beach in Thailand, and I was watching the waves, and it hit me that he passed away in the water, and everything just kind of came together, and I kind of felt like a catharsis, like letting him go. This song Beyond, like he's gone away, and we can't really reach him anymore, but he's left something of himself with us.
So have you finally have you finally allow yourself and accept the fact that by adding this song in your soundtrack, you have finally allow his soul to be free? Have you let him? Have you?
I don't think of it that way. It's not. I don't think anything about his soul being free and all this has to do with my music. But
okay. But have you let him go?
Of course you have to, because how do you continue living life if you can't let a person go? It sounds kind of harsh sometimes, to let a person go, but you have to. I put the song on there because it's a part of me, and at the end of the day, I wanted that personal part of me to be a part of my first album.
So folks, please look out for Simply Shimona. You can get her copy on the website, or even at all available
iTunes,
stores, iTunes, and if you are in Singapore and stopping by around Starbucks Cafe, you could also obtain this copy too. You never know. You might get a jackpot out of it. The third song, what was it? What was your third song that gave you the most impression?
Emotionally, I mean.
Yes, emotionally, or.
It probably would be Like a Piece of My Heart. That one was.
What? A piece of your heart.
Like a Piece of My Heart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's talking about missing someone or a place or a person. That one I wrote when I moved back to Singapore. It was kind of like I was dealing with all these emotions with moving back, and at the same time missing a country that wasn't really my own but kind of felt like my home.
Okay.
So
are you born in Singapore?
Yeah.
Oh, you're born in
I am. But I lived 6 years in Thailand.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
2004, when I gave up music, I went to Thailand to study, and then I ended up working again after that in Thailand as well.
But why Thailand?
It's cheaper than the States.
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
Okay,
I studied at International University, Asia Pacific International University, and yeah, so 6 years away, you live in that place for 6 years, and you start to think of it as your own. And coming back, I felt like I was not complete anymore. There was a missing part of me.
Okay.
And I had left it in Thailand. As all the cliches go. And so that was kind of my.
Sounds like an old song from was it about San Francisco? Yeah.
Well, I guess no matter which place you go to, it's sometimes it's not just a place; it's a person, and I don't know. When I wrote that, I just wanted to portray that feeling of missing a place or a person, and it's so literal and tangible that it feels like there's a hole in your heart, and that's why it's called missing a person, and so that's why I call it Like a Piece of Your Heart. So I wanted to capture that moment, because I'm a late bird, and I'm up until the wee hours of the morning quite often, and that's when things like emotions and missing things and people or places hits you the hardest. So I actually wanted to paint a picture of how I felt right then, and that's what the song is about, Like a Piece of My Heart.
Oh,
yeah.
Amazing. Now, Shimona, since you've shared 3 of your songs that deeply, has a deep impression of your life, that is, for those people out there, your fans, when they heard it, what did they think? Did your family respond positively
To the songs?
to the 3 songs that you described? Have they heard it?
Yeah, of course.
How do they feel about it?
I don't know, I would have to ask them.
You should ask them. Don't worry. Folks, if you like her songs, please send her your voice on YouTube or Facebook page.
Yeah.
And That's okay. I think it's a good start to find out, you know. But really, you know, Nelson Mandela once said, you know, that that after all that has happened to him, it's time for forgiveness. Do you feel that way? That after all that you have done in this wonderful album, you know, called Simply Shimona, do you find a place in your heart where you have forgiven and let go?
Mm, I think forgiveness is a tricky thing. There is definitely room for forgiveness, but to me, I put it as I place emphasis more on appreciation because I feel like with forgiveness, you're still remembering that there's something that you think that someone did or life did something wrong to you, and therefore you should forgive. Not
But
that,
but you're going to, right?
yeah, well, not that I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, but to me, it's all about um, your focus, your focal point, and I don't focus so much on the wrongs that have been done to me, and therefore I should forgive, or the wrongs that I do to other people, and therefore I feel like I should be forgiven, because that puts you in a very, very like tenuous position of always this tit for tat thing. But I rather look at it as appreciation, because when you develop appreciation, then you're grateful, and when you're grateful, there's no room for hatred, there's no room for bearing grudges, and there's no room for needing even to ask for apologies or things like that, your ego and things like that, because when you're grateful, you're just grateful, for every small little thing that you have, or that life has given you, God has given you.
Wow, well, no, that's a very powerful statement. And so now, from then on, now that you have a full album, Simply Shimona, please don't forget to get her copy. Uh, you know, Shimona, why did you title it as Simply Shimona?
Well, first of all, this nickname Simply Shimona has been with me for more than a decade. When I first thought of wanting to do an album, um, more than 10 years ago, my idea of the album title was Simply Shimona. Back then, it was because there's a small story to it, which is I used to help out as a facilitator in these camps for delinquent school kids. And one of the games we used to play in getting to know each other would be to put an adjective in front of your name. And when it came to me, people suggested sweet and sexy or whatever, and I'm like, no, I just want to be simply Shimona. And it kind of stuck because I like the idea of keeping things simple, because sometimes we overcomplicate a lot of things in life, and that's where we get trouble. So it stuck with me ever since then, and it became my Twitter handle, my YouTube handle, and all these kind of things. And then when I finally got down to producing the album, first I had to choose songs. This album is just a small little section of all the songs that I've written since I started writing. So I had to ask myself which songs are going on the album and why,
Wow.
There
And
has
how
to
many
be-
songs have you written so far?
I don't know, a lot.
Hundreds of them?
No, not that many. I'm not one of those churning out type ones.
Okay.
But I mean, because, I've been writing for more than 10 years, maybe
Oh.
15. So,
So who did this design for you? I mean, it's quite very nice,
yeah, my
Oh.
friend Jonathan Chan, he's also a singer,
Oh,
writer,
really?
but he's also an artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he actually drew it by just listening to my music and the
Oh.
impression of my music.
Oh, what does this represent? Is this
No,
just
no,
you, or
it's
is
just his impression of my music.
Oh, yeah?
And
Yeah,
I told him I wanted simple.
Oh, okay.
And something to represent me, and warm colors. That's it. And then he drew this, and I said yes.
Oh, okay. And why this design? What does this design represent? Does it just represent you, or is this
It's-
simple?
It's nothing to read into.
Really?
No
So
need
it's,
to overcomplicate. It's
oh,
just.
it's just something that you just don't have to read. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said. It's the artist's impression of my music.
Oh,
He
okay.
listened to my music and he just drew, and I liked what he
Wow.
drew, and I thought that it was a good representation of my music. So.
Great.
Just went
So,
with it.
folks, please look out for Simply Shimona. Her CD is out, well, worldwide actually. And if you're looking for a gift that's simply, just look out for Simply Shimona. Yeah, and Shimona, you have, I mean, you have explained to us, the background and the heartfelt issues on the music that you have produced. You know, what's next for you?
Mm, well, currently I'm putting any recording on hold until I get funding. Because, one of the things I pride myself as an independent artist is to do a job well. And so after producing the first album, I decided I would really, really do it properly the next time around. Like, it's going to be actually bigger. Because this first one was, the other reason why it's called Simply Shimona, because it's acoustic mostly, except one track. And so, so the acoustic nature of it is low cost and very bare arrangements, very simple, you know. But the next album I'm probably going to do full out arrangements of some of my older songs, which require more time and planning and studio time and more expense and things like that. So I'm not rushing it at this point. I don't want to rush into that. So kind of just taking my time. I teach singing as well. I'm a vocal teacher, and so currently I'm focusing on teaching as well as furthering my studies in terms of teaching music. And maybe next year I might extend my Christmas EP into a full Christmas album. Thinking about it. We'll see.
But aren't you doing any touring in Southeast Asia or other parts of Asia?
I would like to, if I could figure out how. Because as an independent artist, you don't realize how difficult that is. Basically an independent artist means that the artist, me, I am my own manager, my own publicist, my own anything, So to go on tour would be quite a difficult thing if you don't have the know-how, which I don't. So I mean, I would like to, and I don't put out that possibility. But I have to do some research into exactly how to do it and what contacts and things like that.
Wow. So folks, please look out for Simply Shimona. And if you are a manager of a record company or in artist management, there you go. You have Simply Shimona, and she's available for hire at all leading venues. And Shimona, before we let you go, and of course we're going to have her perform some exclusive intimate session with Shimona shortly. Many viewers are wondering right now today, and for aspiring artists, songwriters, they want to find out what's your secret of your success in able to accomplish your very first album, that is, and how can they aspire and encourage themselves to write songs, and and also is it important to stay original, because being original sometimes is hard because people do covers mostly these days, when they do gigs, in bars and all that. Would you able to share with us some insights on that? What advice would you give?
First of all, I was a pop singer for many years, and I still am in a sense. So I do a lot of covers. Personally, I think.
Is that okay?
I think the idea of covers and versus originals, I think people misunderstand that a lot. I don't look down on doing covers in the sense that it's because it's not my song. I think as an artist, as a